Phil Phails. Whoa, Phil Phails.
Welcome to Phil Phails. Today, I'm really excited to have my guest, Nick Deacon. You can wave to everybody, Nick. They're inside of the cameras. He's a health coach and physical culturist. And today, Phil Phails at Bodybuilding. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank
Can
you,
I call
buddy.
you Nick?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
It's nice
dude.
to be here.
So awesome. And we've known each other for a while. And, you know, we were talking, we're going to start with Phil Phails' 5 questions, and they're going to be around bodybuilding. And I just want to talk a little bit about, you know, how we arrived at the fail today. Because I was talking about what you do and kind of your vibe, and we settled on bodybuilding. And I had a little bit of nervousness calling it bodybuilding just because I'm like, and I had this idea that we're all building a body, right? Whether we're doing that thoughtfully or intentionally, we're building a body. So there's something that comes maybe before bodybuilding. Phil Phails at bodybuilding, but maybe thoughtful and intentional bodybuilding, or, you know, because when I asked you some of the things you do, like when you approach, when someone comes to you and says like, hey, I want to get the kind of results you're getting, what are the kind of hats you wear?
Yeah. Well, certainly first and foremost, people will see me as like the trainer, have the trainer hat where this is what you need to do for exercise and the things that happen inside the gym. But then certainly as well, there's the nutrition side, the nutritionist side, where we have to deal with food. And of course, then doing something perfectly once doesn't do anything. You need to be able to develop some consistency and compounding interest and results with it, and have a relationship with it that you welcome into your life versus you resist the whole time. And so that's where the coach and the mindset hat comes into play.
Yeah. And that, man, the culturist just made sense to me, because you're kind of influencing someone's culture. Like,
yeah, and the culture side of things it's almost like you know, I have all these like flashes in my mind right now of people who like pursue athletics, or like just being in the sun all the time with their shirts off and like doing, you know, pull-ups on the gym on the beach, or just all the things that have to do with they're like satisfying something, like they're drawn to it, and then there's like different ways of expressing it, and that exists as like a culture of people,
right?
And then people who are not a part of that look at that from afar, and some of them are like, they're crazy and they're stupid, and other people are like, wow, that's cool, like how could I do that? And other people are just like, God bless them, like look at how, you know, look at that thing that they're doing, right?
So maybe you're providing people a roadmap to that culture.
I would definitely say so.
So like how, like providing like a passion, like imparting a passion of like, how do you build physicality? How do you make that your church? Like the word that came to me was like church. Like I get up a couple days a week and I ride 27 miles on my bike.
You do.
Yeah. And I rock climb at least 2 times a week at the gym for 2 hours in sessions with people that I love. And it's a part of who I am. It's church to me. So when I think of what you said of like people just out on the beach and they're doing pull-ups, and they're just like, when they're moving through life, they're making choices that bring this additional physicality or this additional like movement into their life.
For sure. Yeah, I just got really excited when you know, brought the term church in, because I mean, we could go on a whole long tangent about this, so I'll try to keep this little segment brief about it, where when I first started training and like being in the gym, it became a spiritual practice very quickly, and it was going to church, and the like looking at myself in the like looking at my own eyes in the mirror, and having like the surveillance isn't the right term, but like the audience of myself of like, is this the thing that you're going to do right now? And it was like again and again, yes, to the point where I would be challenged under an exercise or whatever. And it's like, I want to stop. And it's like, no. Like, that's you wanting to stop. And so anyway, so it became this like this very spiritual experience on a regular basis, no less. That, you know, like I came face to face and like, and confronting myself regularly.
And saying, let's do more. There's a part of you, there was almost like two parts. There was the witnesser that was also the encourager, your own trainer that said like, you know, I see you wanting to stop. I see you, this is hard. And the spiritual part is discipline, or is we're going to continue through adversity.
Yeah, something that's like transcends the moment and whatnot. And to the point that you said before about, you know, you going to church and people doing all these physical culture-y type things, you know, certainly in my role as a coach, it's not just here's my stuff and what I do and you're gonna do it now. It's helping cultivate in a person what they can find in it based on their values, their identities, their goals, their priorities, circumstances, yada yada blah, blah, blah. But it's you know, my role is to like help them pull it out and get excited and curious and explorative about what it is to be more health seeking or more fit or more active or more whatever, right?
And they start from wherever they are. You meet them where they are.
You can only do it that way.
Yeah, and it's not going to be Nick's journey, which we're going to explore during this time. It's going to be Jonathan or Susan or whoever. It's going to be like what attracts you from a physical perspective? What are you excited about? And then it's just moving them in the direction of this culture.
For sure.
As opposed to like, you're going to do what Nick does. And yeah. All right, Phil Phails, 5 questions. Are you ready?
Let's go, bro.
Let's go. How would Philip Jones? Oh yeah, I'll tell you about fail and success real quick, because that's going to help as we ask and answer these questions. I've got this idea that success and failure in our culture is really is like a binary between success, like a place that we land, it's solid, it's like a destination, and once you've got it, and it's like the only thing we want to show people, it's really what we want to be all the time.
Like a box that gets checked?
Yeah, we're successful. I'm full of success.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I've found it, I've got it now, it's like something that I've reached and I've attained. And this other side is like failure, and it's like, oh, the thing you don't ever show anybody. It's the thing that kind of stinks. There's shame around it. There's failure, which is like, no, I don't want it. And there's success, and it's like, gotta have it. And if I don't have it, I really need to make whatever I've got look like it. So there's this binary. And the idea behind Phil Phails, the show, is reframing from success ends up this kind of mystical, kind of fleeting thing that's really, you feel it inside, and it's a directionality as opposed to
Success
a destination. Yeah, it's it's maybe you touch on an optimal flow state, or like it's not clear, but you kind of know it when you're on that track towards it.
So the image that's coming to mind is when you have a sprout or vines or a plant that you can slowly see over time is like pushing in a certain direction
towards sunlight.
Yeah, normally it would be towards sunlight, right? And particularly against some, like normally, like you see it when there's like resistance, like if it like comes up through carpet, or like like there's something outside where there's not supposed to be grass, and the grass like pops up and like it's breaking through
in the concrete. Where the heck did that even come?
Right.
And it's like that's success.
Okay.
Right. And then failure is the other side of that binary, is really not starting or discontinuing the journey. Like you're either on the journey, or you're like having some felt sense of optimization, flow state, or like I don't know, this is matching my real expression, and I'm like happy with how I'm expressing. And everything in between there is failure, synonymous with learning or growth or wayfinding.
And so the failure side is, yeah, I'm imagining like on the journey towards the success, as you said, there's like this continuity, and then it just freezes or turns away.
Yeah.
And it like either retreats or just.
Well, I think a lot of people don't ever start for fear of the social like impact of failure, to be seen as someone who's not the best at something. So they're like, I'm not even going to start doing that, because the idea in my mind of what it needs to be out in the world, I can't realize that. And so they don't go through all the trials and tribulations that move them towards some kind of excellence or some kind of.
I've thought about this issue like quite a bit, and there's one that's like comes to mind as well that's like particularly just interesting, and it's like I'm going to shoot my ambitions and visuals so high that it becomes like that it becomes scary to like even get started.
The first step.
And yeah, like just you don't even know where to start, and the first bite is like beyond where like you even think you could start, but there's like a safety in like looking towards this goal and a connection that you have made to where like you think that would be cool to do.
Yeah.
But the mountain is so big that you just leave it there, and the actual starting of anything would be so damaging and bruising to the ego. That it's like I have to start like I'm back here.
Yeah.
I suck this much.
Yeah.
That can't possibly be true, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just like, well, I'll just stay and like look at that and say that I'm working towards it. But anyway, so yeah, there's like an interesting flavor of like procrastinative behavior. But I think, yeah, it sounds like I'm on the same page with what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm setting myself up for success by managing everybody's expectations that this is going to be constant failure, like a constant acceptance of and being with my own imperfection on display. And folks are invited to accept that imperfection and be entertained. Be entertained by the flawed human stumbling. I've called it the fool's journey. The first steps of the fool's journey, right? The beginning of the tarot. The card number 0 is the fool's card. First step.
You would know about tarot cards.
I do. Yeah. And he's stepping off a cliff. Right. So the first step for this is asking you a first question, which would be, how would Phil fail at thoughtful and intentional bodybuilding? What are the follies or the pitfalls along the way to that plant breaking out of concrete?
Are we looking for a single answer, or are we looking for like a...
Feel it out, man. Yeah. Wherever you're at on that.
Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind is, you mentioned Fool's Journey, so like Hero's Journey is also in there in my mind. And one is there's a distinct not answering the call. Phone's ringing, and you just watch it ring, and you walk away or whatever. And that kind of sounds like there's words to this as well, where it's like I'd rather be fat and happy is like one style of what that sounds like, or some sort of othering of people who put thought and intention into their what they eat or what they do and that type of stuff. Where it's like I'm fine the way that I am, which I would argue is also true. Yeah. And it's like, are you satisfied with that? Like, are you like actually, And so there's kind of like this initial, again, answering the call. There's this initial like exploration of one's identity of what could be gained when if this body, because it kind of starts with a question, if this body could be better than it is today, what would that mean?
Yeah.
And so for a lot of people, they think just in terms of the external, so like how it looks. And some people, somewhat rightfully so, resist that and they rebel. And they say, no, I'm fine just as I am. And like, you accept me as I am. Okay. And other people are the complete opposite, where their sense of self maybe isn't quite as like fists up and whatever. And they're yearning to be liked and to be accepted and to fulfill some sort of image that is palatable or desirable even. Which is more like where I personally came from. But so the first thing is like whether or not you answer the call. Like, can you even visualize or imagine or like see a world in which like Phil is fitter than he is today and healthier and more is it possible for age to reverse itself, its trajectory, like from birthday to birthday? Like just thinking in terms of possibility rather than the government says, this, and the medical establishment say this, you need to do this, and a lot of shoulds and
So something around not being able to visualize the impact of body optimization and its value, not having a sense of the value,
or being
of
resistant to it.
What's another kind of pitfall along the way?
Okay, so if I go past that one, there's something along the lines of like looking for some sort of program or quick fix solution where if I just do this thing, everything magically gets better. And the real point that I want to like emphasize here is that if I just do this thing, I don't need to commune with this thing.
Yeah.
I just turn off and I follow directions, and then magic just happens. And sometimes it can kind of feel like that. And when you first start, you don't really, you don't really trust your body because when you're literally just starting, you've probably not communed with it very well or intimately. But we've all had experience. If you've been alive, you've had experiences with the body.
Yeah.
And sometimes those the stories of what those experiences are correct, or I don't like that word, accurate, or sometimes they're inaccurate. And so if you're coming from inaccurate bases of what this body like is and means, it's gonna set up a poor foundation for things. And if it's more accurate, then you're going to go further and have more of the the reaching towards light type of success that you mentioned before. The second thing is basically like looking for these programs and stuff that allow you to like turn your mind off.
Yeah.
And if I just and it sounds like this, what's the perfect diet? What's the perfect exercise plan?
Yeah, right.
What's the perfect this?
Give me that.
Just give me
Just
that.
give me that. I'll do it, and then I'll be
check, done.
It's
right?
What I think of as quick fix, silver bullet, versus like when I hear you say body communion, I think of how does my body and my mind feel after I've eaten something? Like, what is the impact of behavior? Do I like the impact of the behavior? Do I feel more sluggish? Do I feel more alive? How do I feel after I've done a certain workout? Am I hurting somewhere? And even in a way that can be self-protective. Like, have I worked past, some pain in my body? Am I, doing too much leg day or something, which I've heard people say is not a thing, but, it's a joke. But like this idea that communion with your body is like having this awareness. Your body's telling you stuff all the time. Are you listening to it?
Yeah, it's like it's alive.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we, I guess in the Western world, we think about the body as like this machine, as if it's like a car we drive, where it does what we tell it to do, type of thing. And there's a whole part. I mean, I'm about to fly off a cliff into a big old rabbit hole or something right now, but there's this other part of us that is managing us that we tend not to give credence to or give respect or attention to. And then an easy just entry point to that is, Phil, are you controlling your blinking right now?
Okay. Am I controlling my blinking?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, you might be now.
Yeah, when I think about it. But you're talking about what is it? The what is that? There's a word for it.
Autonomic.
Autonomic. Yeah, it's like your breathing, your breath rate. There's a bunch of stuff that's happening.
Your heart
that
rate.
You're not consciously choosing.
There's some other part of us.
Yeah. Part of our brain.
Wherever it's located doesn't really matter, but like there's this part of us that's kind of like behind where we are. And that's controlling the show in a way that sometimes we get a little bit too like, I know what's best, Dad. I know what's best, Mom. And we start to think that we control this, and that's not really the case.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of like work in tandem with this thing. And the first step to that really is to, to have a nice big slice of humble pie and accept that I'm not in control of my digestion. I'm not in control of my heart beating and of this body continually processing information for me to understand my surroundings. Which, when someone jumps out from behind a bush or whatever at you, and you go, and you don't control that,
right?
You didn't control that, right? Or if someone cute or sexy walks by and you start getting like a little bit like, ooh,
yeah,
like you didn't control that either. When you burst out laughing, you didn't control that. So who is, right? And so when we get into fitness journeys, we tend to it tends to come in the territory of like being very gung-ho and like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna control this and I'm gonna like I'm in control, like forget me being fat or unhealthy or whatever, this stops today, like all this, I control this stuff. And then we get a little carried away with that sometimes, and then we forget that there's another being in the car that actually has more control over us than we do.
Right.
And that we must work together or else we're working against each other.
Yeah. And we'll get to this later, but I imagine you've come to this place through your own kind of built awareness around these systems and your own fight.
Yeah.
And then kind of coming to homeostasis or coming into balance with this thing.
I might use the term harmony.
Yeah.
Because part of its job, like the thing, the other part of us, homeostasis is like its continuous goal. Like, let's survive, let's procreate, let's not let you die.
Yeah.
And let's achieve homeostasis and maintain that balance. And if it gets out, bring it back.
Bring it back.
Right.
Right. So second question is, what are the types of things that would let Phil know when he is on a success path? What are those indicators? Like if I was going to Houston, I'd drive and there'd be like 15 miles to Houston,
Mile markers,
10 miles to Houston.
Yeah.
Like what are the things that say, okay, I'm going the right direction and I'm going kind of a healthy speed?
Yeah. I feel a sudden sense of pressure right now because there's like a number of different like ways I could approach this, and so I'm trying to think of like the truest one. Okay. So a lot of times people look at the goal objective as the mile marker. Am I getting stronger in the gym? Am I losing fat, weight, whatever? Am I feeling better? And and am I like doing the thing? Like, am I like being corralled into doing the thing? And I think there's some value in those things, but those are the things that people like immediately go to.
Yeah.
And I think more importantly, if we look back to like the autonomic side of things, in recent years or whatever, I view it like the way my experience of plants are. When a flower is healthy and happy, there's a vibrance to it. It's opening. It's strong. It's like directly pointed at the sun. There's like just health.
There's
indicators about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so some of those things, and so a state that we're looking to get to is where we take the brakes off the system and allow it to flourish in its a natural state of flourishing. The body wants to be healthy,
right?
It's like it's trying to survive, and the only thing that messes it up is typically us. Sometimes we have like a pathogen or like whatever, and that's a different story. But like day to day, it's us. Like we're the problem, right?
Yeah.
So some of the indicators of like, is this flower flourishing? Is like, are you sleeping well? Like, is it a deep, restful quality of sleep? Do you wake up naturally and feel relatively ready to go? Or is it easy to fall asleep? Is the sleep process like a healthy thing?
Yeah.
Is the energy arc throughout the day, does that also follow like a pretty, I don't want to use the word healthy, that's like cheap, like a good, like steady, even,
like having good, even energy throughout the day and accounting for probably a siesta, something, having a dip in energy sometime around
maybe
what they call siesta was like 7 hours after waking.
But there's certainly like an evenness to it, where it doesn't like drop off or it doesn't have some sort of like jittery, anxious high or something. And then in the gym as well, there's like you feel stronger workout to workout overall. Your body's recovering like quickly. There's not like a internal resistances and like pains or tightnesses or like you trying to fight against yourself in terms of range of motion. So the gym can be like a very like nice diagnostic type of environment for those types of things. When you go to do a task, energy is there like ready for you versus like like it's not. Additionally, when it comes to like food stuff, you eat a meal and you feel better after the meal versus feel worse or more tired or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's like I'm trying to get to a point of like balance where like, if we bring the word again like evenness, there's not some like crazy hunger and then some like overshoot of stuffing your face because you're ravenous. Things are even where you enjoy the things that you're eating. They satisfy you, but they don't stuff you. It's not like too little food. It's not too much food, and everything's like, how do I say, like calm lines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no like jags and whatever. Like you feel generally satisfied with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the body is like happy and like ready for more type of thing.
Yeah. That's a good answer. So there's a lot of things I heard, but some of them around the basic ones that we've hear of like, are you feeling stronger over time? And that's like lifting more weight or doing more pull-ups or doing more sit-ups, or when you do them, there's more easefulness. More easefulness.
And you feel more in control of your body as well versus like fighting it to make the task happen.
Yeah. And then one was weight. Are you are your weight goals kind of happening? Are you losing weight, or is your muscle to body weight ratio moving in the way that you want it to? And then like, how are you feeling? Some subjective kind of gauge of happiness or of of aliveness, vibrance. I think I heard you say.
Yeah, there's like a life energy type of thing.
Then sleeping and then eating were kind of big ones, and having energy throughout the day. Yeah, that's cool.
If you're doing the right stuff, a happy body kind of comes out the other side.
Right. These are all places you look for indicators of success.
Yeah, and it's a bit less metric and more subjective. And it's not just like one special thing. And if we're like working towards like a particular goal, like you want to like a one particular metric, but that depends on the goal. But as a general thing, we want to always make sure that the program, whatever it's doing, is providing an environment to the body where the body is responsive. It's kind of like happy, as I say, and the subjective markers like seem to be going quite well. Where like hunger is not out of control, your energy is even and stable. You're generally happy and satisfied with like what you're doing. Cravings and things like that aren't like. They're like not a thing. Everything's like kind of stable and easy, versus like, holy shit, a turn! Like I missed the turn.
Yeah,
things aren't like suddenly happening.
Right.
It's all kind of like soft, smooth. Oh, look, it's coming. Get ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Question 3 is, let's see, why do you do this? Like, what value do you get from walking the path that you walk? Beyond, not beyond anything. It's like, what value do you get?
So I hear a couple layers into this question, so I want to like just parse them out for a moment. This is what you're not asking is how I began, but what I currently get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a funny thing about that is like every now and then I'll question like, should I, I've been doing this a long time, like 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'll question like, should I stop? Like, is it time? It's like, is it time to stop? And so I'll run it through my head because it takes time, like it takes time and effort. And like, if something's filled, then it could be, I could put something else there. Right. So I like kind of work this through my mind and it's like, should I stop? And the answer is always no. And so the reason for that is, number one, there's a default, like, I've got these systems in place, like these default systems in place, and how I live my life and how I eat and how I, move my body and rest and recover, blah, 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 that are just general maintenance the way that like showering is. And it not only tunes me into my body in like very low energy states of like rest, but also very high energy states of like performance in the gym and like whatever. And most of the time, like we just think about how we feel like when we're awake. But if I also notice what my body's doing on an easefulness dimension, and then on like a let's go like dimension, that tells me more about my body. And it allows me to like steer the ship a little bit better. That type of thing allows like my body just feels better. I'm able to move better. My body generally feels good. If it doesn't feel good, I can point to things of like why, and then I can steer the ship, and I have opportunities built in throughout my week to do so in my workouts. So what I'm getting at there is kind of like on a day-to-day, like how my body feels and operates. There's like a mood regulation thing.
Yep.
There's like resets and whatever. I never have to worry about like my body suddenly, it's like the thing where you like wake up and you look in the mirror like, what the hell happened? There's none of that because something's, I'm constantly like attending to it. And it's become certainly a part of my identity, but I think more so than that, it's like with these kind of default habits and practices that are in my life, I can live with confidence on every day of knowing whether or not my body can do something. Normally the answer is, most of the time, like the answer is like yes.
Yeah.
Where I can feel free to say yes to things and not have to worry about like, oh, like maybe that's not such a good idea. And I don't want to live in like a restricted way like that.
Mm-hmm.
The people around me who, it welcomes people around me who also value health and wellness and fitness and that type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where they have a vibrance. What else?
Is there anything around your advocacy? Like I hear a lot of the reasons that you do it for you personally, that like your body's imbalanced and your mood's more regulated, and you're strong and you can say yes to experience and adventure as it concerns your body and what you're up for.
Yeah, like races limits.
Yeah, but is there and you're as part of your identity, you're advocating and you're influencing folks. And I imagine there's some reason there, something.
Yeah, it's interesting. A long time ago, as I got my first personal training certification, whatever, I realized that I was going from like recreational, bodybuilder, fitness enthusiast, whatever, and then like now being a purveyor and like a teacher of this type of thing. And that was like a transcendent like level or something. And that's certainly true, but I actually, the way that I look at that these days is like the fact that I like teach and advocate for all this type of stuff is just it's kind of secondary to the fact. This may be redundant of me saying, but I think that's just secondary to the fact that I believe in this shit so strongly that it's like I know I'm right. You know what I mean? Like I will die on this hill.
Yeah.
And I continue to challenge it. Like I just said a moment ago, like it's like, is this not the right path? Is this no longer the right path?
Right.
Am I still benefiting from this? And so the advocacy part is just like, man, like this is such a sure investment.
Yeah.
And it's not just the me today. It's not just the 20 years that I've been doing this. It's everything my brain has ever received still, like before I even started working out, it all says like eat well, commune with your body, exercise and give it like hard tasks and keep it on its toes and like fight gravity and the aging process, like fight the inevitable forces of nature that make us want to succumb to comfort and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that like being, not that this isn't awesome, right?
Yeah.
But it's such a sure investment that that's where like the advocacy comes in.
Right.
Where like I want other people to know with such conviction, like trust me, like just trust me. It's super like it's the answer.
It's like come to church.
Yeah. Except like you can it doesn't have to be a particular way.
Right.
Like church or temple or this or that. Like it doesn't even have to be a certain, like you have a body, you should be communing with it.
Yeah.
And like, right? Yeah. And your life will be better off.
Yeah. Question for, where do you see it going for you? Like, is there an end goal that you're moving towards now? Like, what are your goals?
Yeah, I'm in a strange spot of transition right now. So I kind of come from like a forever type of like be jacked, like be lean and be jacked type of thing, and like fight the skinniness and fight the fatness of like inactivity and like all those types of things. So like an aesthetic body composition type of thing for me has always been very prevalent. But more recently, like being as pain-free as possible, and like being able to move my body in the most expressive way. Like, okay, essentially, like, there's some part of me that wants to have no limitations in my ability to express movement with my body. And as I've gotten deeper and deeper down like the super like esoteric weirdo like rabbit hole, my discoveries whatever have led me towards like a lot of emotion.
Why do you do that?
Because
it's discovery that way. You've done a lot of stuff. You've invested a ton of time and energy.
It's true.
I
don't want to be haughty about it though.
Well, is there some middle ground where like you actually have invested tons of time and energy and attention towards this? And
yeah, there's certainly just a thing that I want to like impart whenever I speak from a place of experience, that as quickly as tomorrow or later today, I could discover something that renders everything that comes out of my mouth completely like wrong or shifted.
Because you're open-minded.
Super. I want to be wrong. I want to learn a new thing, and I'm not trying to sell a thing or like stake a claim.
You kind of are. Like, communing with your body is positive.
Right.
It will improve your life. Like, you kind of have a stake in the ground in a lot of ways, but there's an open-mindedness and also this, like, I guess maybe a fear that if you say it a certain way, you'll be viewed as, I don't know, you said haughty or I don't know, like better than others or I don't know, grandiose or something.
I don't claim to have the answers. And I just claim to have my perspective, like the experiences and perspective that I have.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's essentially like the reason why I like,
I do that too. That's the only reason I mention it, because I'll say things in a certain way when I have a confidence about what I'm saying, sure, and I have some external view that people outside might think, oh, that guy's full of it.
There's actually also a thing. So this is arriving to me as well. So sometimes when I'm like coaching people, particular people that I've worked with, sometimes they put me up on a pedestal, and just based for whatever reason, like sometimes
because you've reached an optimal physical fitness, and they want to attain that too.
Something higher than what they have. They see something that they want and believe in, and that they trust me to a very high level, and just blah, 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 blah. I'm on a pedestal.
Right.
And I don't love that, because I always want everyone to challenge everything that I ever say. Right. And if, yeah. So if, I never want to be like, don't challenge me, I'm right. Right? Because that's stupid, and that's not how we get to like better answers and whatever. But also, I want to encourage you to challenge me, because maybe there's something I've not considered. Yeah. And like, if you challenge me and you're right, it's like, aha.
We both grow.
And to your point about the success checkbox before, the overall thing that I was feeling from the success and failure dynamic is that it's a living, breathing thing. And as soon as you go, oh, that's it, done. Like that's a discontinuation of whatever that is. Right. And so I don't want people to think that like, oh, I found the answer and this is it. Like that's all there is to it. Right. No. Challenge what I say. I could be wrong. You could be right. And I might learn new things about it later. There's better perspectives.
There's something about wanting folks to be in it with you. Like you want them to be doing their own research. They're also in the discovery with you and sharing their perspective.
That certainly makes it more fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I personally get a lot out of watching someone engage with something.
Yeah.
And like
get excited, passionate.
Yeah, like, who doesn't love watching a kid be like, whoa, like, look at that. It's like, yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Fifth and final question.
Was there more to the fourth one? I feel like we got off on a thing about the haughty thing.
But it sounds like there is.
What was the question again?
It was about like your own personal journey and where, if you see a pinnacle of success, if you see some like where you're going.
So where I was going with the thing before is I've arrived at a thing of like emotions find so like it's like what's the meaning of life and all this nonsense, right?
Yeah.
There's if a body is not healthy and responsive due to too much fat in a particular place, that like if you got too much fat here, you can't breathe properly, right? There's stuff in the way, and so there's a restriction. If your tissues are not in agreement with each other, like there's a restriction on the inside, where this body is not like a free moving thing. Okay, and so when things are stiff and not free moving, it loses its conductivity as like something that can allow things to pass through it. And people get stuck, like quite literally stuck. And just look around at people that you see in your life. There's people who get stuck. They have a face. The face like gets stuck in a certain way. Their postures get stuck in a certain way, and they lose. There's a joke that like cats are part water. They're liquid because they form to whatever the container.
Shape
yeah, exactly, right. And so there's like a suppleness to a body that like connects and sends energy through it and is fine afterwards. And in other words, like it bends but doesn't break. But if we think about this, if this is the vehicle for our consciousness, and it is, and it cannot express things properly, then it cannot receive and like transmit what it's receiving in day-to-day life, like one-to-one, like with full fidelity. So from an emotional standpoint, we laugh, we cry, we have these big emotional outbursts, and sometimes those things get blocked, and then they just kind of stay there, blocked, and then we end up harping on the same thing in our lives for 26 years.
So I'm trying to figure out, you're wanting to be, like, your goal is to be more malleable, or more to have an optimal malleability or an optimal way of flowing through life, or...
To put another way, like to be a better antenna for the energies of life and to allow them to pass through me, to receive them and for them to pass through me without getting stuck. And I've noticed in myself through, I came through a long thing of like bodybuilding and strength training and yada yada, where like I got super strong. And then all of a sudden I noticed like certain things didn't move properly, and I couldn't mirror movements, and like certain things that just got stuck, whatever. And then like dancing and some of these like autonomic functions, like vomiting or laughing or gasping, like when you're in the water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
These things all of a sudden were like impaired. And I was like, "Oh, we got a problem."
When you were in the height of bodybuilding, as far as like having big
I still have
muscles
some, like some of these things. I'm like,
it impacted some of the autonomic.
And now
functions.
I can see that. I'm like, oh, like whoa.
So then, like trying to find that balance,
right? And to a point where I this is the goal, if you will, is to enjoy life more and to experience a greater. I imagine you'd know quite a bit about, or like resonate on this level quite a bit of experience a deeper connection with life on a deeper emotional level, on a just experience a more colorful richness of life. And in order to do that, I believe on this day, right, that the malleability or whatever of one's body to be that antenna is a crucial part of that, at least. And maybe this isn't, maybe this, other people watching don't agree as much, but like for me, this thing has limitations and stuck points that definitely make it that inhibit what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
which is why it's like super clear to me. I'm like, whoa. It's also not anything I would have ever thought to chase on day one, but blah, 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 blah. So that's like one goal right now, to live bigger, better life and allow this machine to maybe be less machine, more antenna and spiritual fucking
I like it.
thing.
Yeah. Question 5 is, do you have any kind of idea of how you might die?
The mission for a very long time, I've like, when I was like 5-ish years old, I would think often about like my 80-year-old self. I was very conscious of making decisions for 80-year-old me. And so, as if they're different people, because on some level they are.
Yeah.
I was communing with like 80-year-old me when I was like 5.
Yeah.
And like just very aware of this person.
So you're living to 80 at least.
That's just the number. Yeah. Right? Like sufficiently old or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the deeper I went, and so I wasn't bodybuilding when I was 5 or whatever, but like I was very conscious of like there's an older age and I'm making decisions for that person, and I wanted to live to be old in a positive way.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of like negative aging and sickness around me when I was a kid, and that's part of the reason why. And so then so I jokingly have said for a number of years that like I'm going to live to like 120, 150, like whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Realistically, like I don't think that's necessarily true.
You don't have any idea when you're going to die because you kind of feel like you're going to live until
the plan is
forever.
Certainly the plan is, well, that's
100. I'm going to 100 in a bunches.
Right. Yeah. But I definitely like the plan is to live a very long time and die when like something gives up, like it's at the end and it's like time to die. However, I'm just about to turn 35 and there's people in my life that I've grown up with or whatever who've died. And it's like, whoa. And
35-year-olds.
Just throughout like since high school and
folks have died
throughout your life, like people just they get off the train and they're, whoa. Oh, like that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm well aware of like the preciousness of life and that anything could happen along the way. That's not part of the plan.
Yeah.
And what that might be, I don't know. There are some things that I feel like are less likely than most. Like I don't think there's going to be some sort of like shootout fisticuffs type of like
you're not going
violent
out
struggle.
In a blaze of gore.
There's probably not going to be like a violent struggle.
Yeah.
Suicide is probably not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
I'm like 99 point whatever sure that that's not going to be a thing. I have some like pretty strong opinions about suicide.
Right.
And like a commitment to myself of like just one more day. Something like a drug overdose seems relatively unlikely. Mm-hmm. I'm like quite careful with, like that's not like a thing for me.
Right.
Some sort of chronic disease seems,
because you're so communing with nature, your body. It seems like
quite unlikely.
Right.
And
who knows? But yeah,
who knows? Right. Like
seems like you'll address things that come
naive,
up in your life. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I probably have a lot more tools than the average person.
Right.
By like a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not like afraid of like that one or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I'm not expecting it. Something like a vehicular thing.
Okay.
That shit scares me a little. That like might be because it's quick. It's quick and sudden, comes out of nowhere. You just never know, right?
Yeah. Well, I think this little this little death meditation might be a perfect completion to our Phil Phails 5 questions, if that's okay with you.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. We'll just end the 5 questions right there.